Okay, thank you. Sahar is going to share information with us, and then we will have some time for questions and answers. And we're going to ask that you type your questions into the chat, and then we will bring them to Sahar at when it comes to that time. So you may have questions arise as she's talking. If you want, you can put those in the chat. If they're answered, then we won't do them. But you're welcome to do that as you go along or at the end of her talk. All right. So without further ado, Sahar, can we welcome you to our gathering today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
So good morning, everyone. It's here evening. And thank you so much for hosting me today with you. It's really my pleasure, and thanks for the introduction, Diane, and especially highlighting the settler colonial history of Canada, because actually the horrible experience we are getting through in the last couple of months is so terrifying to think about, that colonization is not ending, is not over in this world, and it's continuing. And the worst fear for the Palestinians currently, that people in Gaza would be deported outside of the place and displaced in other countries. And this is why I think it's really very essential and very important and very urgent, this solidarity around the world. And we need the people like you to speak louder and louder and to take action and to force your countries and Canada as one of the countries that they have very good relations with Israel, with other European countries. They can make difference. And you should find the way how you can pressure the taking decision level in Canada in order to stop all these violations for international law. Because what was happening in the last year and a half is a total collapse for the whole system of international law of human rights that was developed after the Second World War. If we will allow Israel and the United States to get away with the genocide and the war crimes and the crimes against humanity that are taking place on daily basis, without any accountability, this means why we would need international law, why we would need this system at all. Let's be frank and admit that the powerful people would survive in this world, but the non-powerful cannot do anything. And the issue of the prisoners is totally connected with this discussion around the importance of international law, the protection for the people on the ground by the international system, and the failure, not just in the last 1 year and a half of the Israeli occupation, but for decades, for 7 decades, Israel was violating systematically all standards of human rights and protection for prisoners in a very systematic way without any accountability. And this is why we sit here today, and they don't care about the international law and the international system, because they were never found accountable for any crime that they committed against the Palestinian people, of course, against the Palestinian prisoners in the Israeli system. Currently, there's still 9,500 Palestinian prisoners from the West Bank and East Jerusalem inside the prisons, because the number for those from Gaza Strip is not so accurate. Israeli authorities were never sharing the correct number of the people that they were arresting from the Gaza Strip since October 23 up till today. We estimate that till today there's 2,500 more or less detainees from Gaza. The 9,500 from the West Bank, includes 350 children under 18 and 21 women in detention and lots of elderly and students, and they can arrest anyone. So inside the 9,500 you can find all different people who got to be arrested in the last year and a half. From Gaza, they also arrested almost everyone: children, women, elderly, injured people, doctors, nurses, anyone could be arrested. And of course, what happened after the beginning of the war was a very serious deterioration in all levels in the daily life and the rights of these Palestinian detainees inside the prisons. When the government declared the security emergency situation in all inside the state and in the occupied territories, this is included all the prisons. So immediately they closed down all the prisons. They canceled all the family visits, all the lawyers' visits, and also the visits of the Red Cross Committee. And till today, the Red Cross Committee is not allowed to visit, and also the families are not allowed to visit, which means all these thousands of prisoners were totally isolated and locked in their rooms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without being able to communicate in no way with the outside world. In the Palestinian prisoners sections, there's no phone calls. They cannot use the phone to call their families. So the only communication is the visits of the lawyers that they were convened after a couple of 2 months or 3 months and so. And it's also under lots of restrictions. So also us as lawyers, we are not freely able to visit these prisoners. It's limited on the days, on the hours, on the number of people who we can meet. And they can cancel the visit whenever they want based on security claims that there's an emergency situation. It's very difficult. And after closing in such way the prisons, they raided the whole rooms of the prisoners, confiscated their clothes, their food, their books, their radios, or any other equipment or any stuff that they had in their rooms. They kept the detainees with one cloth on them, and they even took the jackets and the blankets, and it was just the autumn, and just when in December and January they gave them back some jackets and some blankets. They were taking the windows from the cells, and it was freezing in December, January. They minimized the food in all the prison system, and they started with a starvation policy against everyone. Children, elderly, sick prisoners, everyone was complaining that they were hungry. And we saw it. And I'm sure if you saw pictures of people after the release, and for me, some of the people that I know personally for long period, I couldn't recognize after their release, because I couldn't believe that this is the same person after losing 25 kilogram or 30 kilogram. You know, just today I visited a detainee, a young man from Gaza. He's 19 years old. I just visited him last August. Um, yeah, last August. It's less than 6 months. I was shocked how much weight he lost. I asked him today, do you know how much you lost? And he said no, because they never did a medical checks for us. They never tell us how much weight we lose, but they don't offer them proper food. They canceled all the, you know, they are supposed to give them hygiene stuff in order to keep their rooms clean, to shower, and to take care of themselves. And they minimized the shower time for 3 minutes for each detainee, once in a week. And at the beginning, it was once a month. So the detainees started to develop very serious skin diseases in these months, mostly scabies. And was very serious because almost everyone was affected, and they were left without any medication at the beginning. When people started dying out of the scabies infection, they started offering them some medication like one pill or some cream. And mostly they were isolating the serious cases. Also, they closed all the medical clinics inside the prisons, and they hardly took anyone outside to the external hospitals to be treated. So also people who had serious diseases like cancer or chronic kidney failure or such cases, in some cases they lost their life because they were not properly treated in proper time. So far, up till last week, 63 people died since October 23 till last week in prison. This is a very high number. Like we never in all these years in the under the occupation, we never had such a very high number of people that they died out of torture, direct torture, or medical neglect inside the prison. Of course, all these people who died, their bodies are still kept with the prison authority. There's also 10 cases from before. And of course, in our experience, they always keep bodies of people who died while being arrested or just before. This is another serious issue, that Israel keep the bodies of the people and they don't give them back. There's hundreds of bodies that they are still kept with the Israeli side. And the prisoners also suffered from lots of physical violence because their rooms were raided by the security forces on daily basis, almost in the first like actually more than 7 months after the war. They were using the issue of the emergency in order to attack the prisoners on daily basis under the cover of security needs and security searches in the rooms. They were physically attacking them. In some cases, they were entering the rooms with dogs that they were attacking the detainees, or using, the sticks and in some other cases, they were using cover bullets. And in at least 3 detainees were dying out of direct physical attacks in these months. Of course, in all of the cases where people died, they would claim that they opened investigation into the death, but we never receive a proper answer about what was the cause of the death and if there's anyone responsible that he would be prosecuted or accused of causing this death. The detainees from Gaza were also facing a totally more even harsh conditions and treatment. And it was focusing on lots of humiliation, lots of degrading treatment to break the soul of the people. In the Gaza Strip, when they were starting to arrest people massively, like tens and hundreds of people were collected in very short time and brought into the detention facilities inside Israel, these images that they were leaked into the media showing the detainees that they were naked or just with their underwears, this is very real. Almost every detainee I met in these months was treated in the same way, no matter how old is he, no matter what's his health conditions, he was immediately stripped. And in some cases, they were transferred all the way to inside Israel to the detention facility naked, or in the good cases, they were stopping in the middle and they were offered this overhaul that we saw in the COVID period, the white clothes, very thin clothes, pants and shirt that they were wearing. And all the detainees were attacked from the first moment of the arrest all the way to the detention facility in the buses or the trucks or whatever facility they were transferred into. The soldiers were beating them, attacking them with their weapons, humiliating them. Most of the hittings and the attack were on the head, the chest, and the upper side of the body. People were, in some cases, losing conscious. And when they were arriving to the first stop for almost everyone from Gaza was the Sdei Timan facility. This is the detention facility in the southern part of Israel in the Negev desert, where I don't know if you heard about the case of the rape. That was also a short video that was leaked, and this is caused for the military police to investigate the case. And by the way, this is the only case that was investigated by the military police, and 5 soldiers are facing trial because of this case. But hundreds of detainees from Gaza were reporting about sexual violence and sexual harassment, rape, or other abuses. And it was very, very difficult experience. I believe lots of people even didn't speak about this experience because it was so difficult for them to talk about it. Lots of detainees described very similar actions to the same case of the rape that was covered in the media, although it didn't ended up in such serious, because the detainee who was attacked in this incident in July 24, he was hospitalized in very bad conditions. And actually, this is part of why the story was also leaked, why maybe one soldier decided to share the video, the short video, and the investigation was open. But other detainees were also facing this abuse of the soldiers trying to push the, this black short button, how you call it in English, that the police is using in the demonstrations. This is the tool that was pushed to his anus, and it was done with lots of other detainees. But it wasn't like causing a serious injury for the others, and maybe this is why it wasn't reported. And we believe this case will not end with a very serious sentence or results against the soldiers. And the detainees from Gaza, up till like 2 or 3 months ago, imagine people who were arrested in October, November, December 23, were kept handcuffed and blindfolded and forced to sit on a very thin mattress on the ground for 8 months, 9 months, 1 year. And they were also facing starvation. They were banned from speaking even to each other while sitting in these stressful positions. And if they dared to speak one with another, they would be physically attacked. The conditions for the detainees from Gaza were very, very bad conditions. The detainees were saying, like, you wouldn't believe they would treat animals better than the way how they are treating us. Till today, like even when I go to visit and they want to bring a detainee to the visit room, he would be handcuffed, his hands from behind his head, blindfolded, and the soldier would force his head down to the ground and pull him with the cover on his eyes, like an animal, like you drag an animal. It's very human, like, and they see that I see the scene and they don't care. Like, they don't hesitate to treat the detainees in such violent way, even in front of our eyes as lawyers. And they know that we are seeing them treating the detainees in this way. To this level, the whole situation of the Palestinian prisoners this year was so difficult. And most of the detainees from Gaza, these thousands of people that they were arrested, mostly they were kept under the Israeli civil law that it's called unlawful competent law. This is very similar to the administrative detention military order that is applicable in the West Bank for Palestinians in the West Bank. This enables the authorities to arrest anyone based on secret information, secret information that will never be disclosed to the court. There's no clear evidences. Us as lawyers, we cannot see this information. So how you will defend the detainee? What you will argue against this detention if it's based on secret information? And in every case, they claim that the secret information disclose that this person is connected to terror, and this is the reason why he should be kept in detention till the end of the war. So all these people are kept as hostages. They didn't do anything. There's no clear evidence against them. There's no clear accusation. There's no clear connect that they were involved in any action, not in the 7th of October, not after the 7th of October. So why you are keeping thousands of people in this horrible conditions? This is arbitrary detention. This is war crime, and they all should be released without any conditions. In the same time, the number of the administrative detainees in the West Bank increased in very sharp way. Like, not even in the first intifada or in the second intifada, we had 3,500 people in the same time arrested under administrative detention without trial, without charges, without clear evidences. Currently, there's 3,500 detainees in such way out of the 9,500, including 100 children. Imagine people under 18 are arrested based on secret information that they are causing a threat to the security in a way that it justifies arresting them for 6 months and another 6 months, and it could be renewed indefinitely, actually. This is the difficult in the, like, it's a very difficult experience to be arrested under administrative detention. It's psychological torture, basically, because you will be arrested and you will never know when you would be released. It's not limited in any time. They can renew the order indefinitely. So, I mean, it's very important that when we discuss the issue of the prisoners, we understand that it's not about really security and that these people are involved in such serious actions that really can justify their detention for such long period. You should understand that the occupation was using the military court system and the military orders and the imprisonment as the main tool of oppression and control over the whole society. And this is why it's very important to take the decision of the International Court of Justice that was given in July 24. And the court said that the Israeli occupation is illegal. After all these years, what Israel is doing in the occupied territories, definitely violating the international law, and it should be stopped. It should be ending. And the General Assembly, after this decision, gave a resolution asking Israel to end their occupation within 1 year. And I think this is the responsibility of the third state parties. This is the responsibility of the international community. This is the responsibility of Canada, of Germany, of France, of Britain, all these powerful countries. If they respect international law, if they want to convince us, the people in the world, that they are real democracy and they are in favor of human rights and protection of human rights, they should work in a way that to implement international law in equal ways. And Israel shouldn't be above the law. Israel should be exactly treated as Sudan, as Syria, as Belgium, as any other country. Israel should be accountable for the violations of the international law. So if the court said the occupation should be ending, this means military courts should be dismantled, prisoners should be released. This is the solution. As easy as it is. The occupation should end, prisoners should be released. And with this, I would end. Sorry, I was a bit long, but...
No, that's really helpful, Sahar. I wonder if it's it's almost unbelievable what you bear witness to as a lawyer working with people who are in detention. So we really appreciate your strength and your commitment to doing that. So let's see if there are some questions. Okay. Yeah, so some comments that the Canada is ignoring international law. It's certainly not seeming to argue for it. um, the question about reasons given for children being arrested. You talked about the overall blanket kind of thing of security of the state. Often children in the past were arrested for throwing stones or being accused of throwing stones.
Also to add on the throwing stones, there's the trend of the social media use. So for every post you share or you write, you could be accused of incitement, incitement for violence, incitement for terrorism, supporting terrorist organization. Like if a child would show solidarity with the people in Gaza, he could be accused of supporting Hamas. And lots of children currently are facing trial because of their activism in social media. So throwing stones or social media activism would be a reason to be arrested for children and for adults, of course.
One question is, how do you stay safe? Like when you go to visit in prisons, or if you're known as as a advocate, how do you need to look after yourself?
I forgot to mention about the Damir and the threats and the designation against the organization. Of course, in 2021, Damir, along with other six Palestinian colleagues, human rights organizations, like Al-Haq for human rights, Defense for Children, International, the Palestinian chapter, and other colleagues, the Israeli occupation forces declared us as terrorist organizations. Of course, because of our work in human rights and especially on the international level. But they also used secret information against us as organizations, claiming that we are associated with terrorist groups. And they tried to close the office. They raided the office and sealed the doors, but we reopened the offices. We're trying to disconnect between the legal work and the organization itself. We're not protected, to be honest. I know that they can come and arrest me anytime they want, if they want, and not just me, all the other colleagues in the office and in the other organizations. Maybe they don't have time now. Maybe they don't want the attack against them if they arrest us in such time, but definitely we are not protected. But we don't have any other choice but to continue our work because it's very important. If we're not doing this work, means the prisoners, like not just us, all the lawyers, all the other colleague organizations takes the risk to continue monitoring and documenting these violations. We try to, honestly, we know that we need the support, I mean, on the psychological level. And we do get some support from experts on the local level because it's really, this year was so horrible. With all the cases of, also when you are trying to locate someone, especially the cases from Gaza, and you would discover that the person was killed before or in the way to the detention, and to get back to inform the family, it's not easy. So, and then to go to visit and to hear the stories about the torture and the sexual violence, and it's very, very hard. And in order to continue to be hopeful and able to work, you need the support. You cannot deny it. And we're lucky that we're still able to work as a group. And I should admit that part of our strength comes from your solidarity, to be honest. For me, such meetings, such gatherings where we can talk and discuss, and we know that our voices are heard and people do care and try their best to support us. This is gives us lots of strength that we're not alone and that we should continue, because it's really about our humanity in this world. It's for me, it's not just any about the Palestinians anymore. Honestly, as a lawyer working for 30 years in the international law and trying to see that this system is working, now I feel like it's very dangerous period, because if it means that Israel can do this without any accountability, honestly, this is will mean that all what we believed in is gone. And it's not just about Palestine. It's
No.
about the people, the oppressed people all over the world, the weak people all over the world versus the power, the colonization, um,
Yeah, we're watching the American system
exactly.
change radically, and even in Canada, free expression is getting. They're trying to restrict
Yeah.
free expression. One of the questions, or I guess it's so accountability, like even some Western leaders we feel need to be held to account for complicity in the genocide, and yet with the US government threatening sanctions against the International Criminal Court and all the harassment and the underground stuff that happens, it's really hard to see whether, how that will happen.
It's very difficult, but I think we shouldn't lose hope. And I know that maybe it's in the short term, maybe the results would be the opposite. Like, I mean, if there's election, for example, now in Canada, maybe the right-wing side will take over more than what we expect, that should cause people to go and vote against these ideologies. But maybe the opposite will happen. But should give us more courage to continue, that we have responsibility, because I don't think that unjust can continue forever. No,
Yeah, that's what keeps us going, isn't it? that there's a that there's a God who believes in justice. There are a couple of comments around the federal election that Canada is going through right now. We vote at the end of April, and some people, I think, know about Vote Palestine, but if you don't know about it, it's a movement to help. It invites us as individuals to take the pledge to support Palestine in about 5 or 6 different ways, but also to ask our candidates who are running for the federal election to make a commitment to seek justice for Palestine. They're not radical asks. I think anybody should be able to sign on to this, but right now the NDP are doing it. Green candidates are doing it, but very few liberals and no conservatives. So the more we can pressure, ask the questions, why haven't you signed on to Vote Palestine? I think that would be helpful.
I think they're trying to present as if the Palestinian cause is so radical, or anyone that is pro-Palestinian, he's a violent, radical person, and we should speak out against this, because it's really about our human rights as people. And you just said how the freedom of speech is shrinking in Canada, and not just in Canada. Look around in all the European countries, how they were attacking demonstrations in favor of Palestine and the Palestinian people. And this is the indicator, like if now it's about Palestine, tomorrow it will be about your health system. If you go and speak and demonstrate and demanding things from your government for your own daily life, and it's not fitting their interest, they will attack you, and they will restrict your ability to act, to be active, and to go out to protect your own rights.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what should matter, that this is connected. We should see it as affecting us all, not just because of the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
Because if the UN system is collapsing, it's collapsing for everyone, not just for the Palestinians. And this is what the Americans are trying to do.
Right. They are. A question about Dr. Abu Safiya. That made headlines in Canada for many of us. I saw recently that the court had upheld another 6 months of detention for him.
So exactly, this is, it's a bit was confusing the way how it was reported in the media. Abu Safiya is held in the same, according to the same law I described, the unlawful competent. Imagine that he's suspected to be a terrorist person, a doctor that he was arrested from the middle of the hospital on top while he was on his work. He's accused of being connected to terror, and he's arrested based on secret information. The order itself is not limited. It's an open-end detention order. But in the court, this review, judicial review, is taking place every 6 months. So they did it, and they confirmed the detention. So the court approved the detention, but the next review would be in 6 months. So it doesn't mean that his time in detention is limited for 6 months. The order itself is not limited, but every 6 months, they have to bring him to the court to do this judicial review for the order, for the detention order.
Right. Another question, Sahar, is can you comment on what's happening in Masafer Yatta?
Masafer Yatta, as other small communities and villages in the West Bank, that they are attacked lately on daily basis. Last week was Masafer Yatta. Yesterday was Douma, a small village near Nablus. 300 settlers attacked, burned houses, burned cars, with the protection of the army. The army claimed that the people the settlers who were arrested, they were able to flee, and they were running away. And in Masafer Yatta, it happens almost every day that settlers attacks, destroy, and beat the people, attack physically the people. And the purpose of all this. They want to kick all these communities out of their land, out of their villages, exactly like they are doing with the refugee camps in Jenin area, the Jenin refugee camp, the Tul Karim refugee camp. you know, this is part of the bigger plan. The same displacement and forcible displacement that is happening in Gaza is implemented as well in the West Bank, because the Israeli government plan is the annexation and continuing their colonization of the rest of Palestine, because they are saying it clearly. They don't want Palestinian state. They don't agree that the Palestinian Authority take over and establish the Palestinian state, and they want to annex the occupied territories. So the plan is to displace the people to the main cities or outside of the country, so they can confiscate all the other areas that they are left without the people on them.
Yeah. I'm just going to read this. It's a question and an affirmation. Sahar, you are one of the bravest people I've ever met. Thank you for your words. If you can maintain hope, certainly we must. Is pressuring our politicians the best thing we can do, in your opinion? I've attended marches. They help raise awareness.
Of course, not just pressuring the politicians, attending marches and demonstrations, the divestment and sanctions campaign. It's very essential to be raising awareness to other people. Like if people don't want or hesitant or are not able to share in demonstrations or in other actions to pressure politicians, the minimum, or at least to be aware, to boycott and divest from purchasing or in any way that you think it's effective. I mean, without, because if the governments are not willing to take decisions and to take actions, we, the people, have the choice to decide whether we want to buy this T-shirt or that T-shirt, this computer or that computer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Canadians right now are busy buying Canadian as much as they can in reaction to the American tariffs.
Exactly.
And so if they can do that, they can also find out what are Israeli products and
definitely.
Someone noted that the Hin Rahab Foundation is filing charges in a number of places. Like if people aren't aware of that foundation, it's a good thing to be aware of. They're tracking IDF soldiers and others, like Netanyahu is supposed to be visiting Hungary. So they're encouraging governments to make arrests on war crime charges for Israelis who are abroad.
Yes, this is also another way how to try to put more pressure but it's not easy. Like, I mean, there's lots of challenges in this way, because you have special procedures in each country when it comes for the process of using the internal criminal system in order to prosecute Israeli perpetrators of serious crimes. There's some conditions and it differs from one country to another. But I mean, this is very, very powerful what this organization and all the other lawyers, because there's also other human rights organizations, whether in the United States or in Europe, that they are trying also to initiate such legal steps. And I think all these efforts together, at one point, they will succeed. We will succeed, like it happened in South Africa. I mean, in the middle of the apartheid and the work against the apartheid, no one was believing that one day it will all collapse. And it happened. And this is what we should keep in
Yes.
front of our eyes that it can happen and it should happen.
Yeah. It's we're just really coming to the end of time, but Tina pointed out the No Thanks app and the Boy Cat app are really helpful. I use them all the time when I go shopping to just check, because you don't always know the connections. There's some Israeli products, but there are a lot of products that are connected one way or another to the Israeli project. Yeah, so I think I want to honor Zahar's time with us and not run over, but deeply, deeply thankful to you, both for the sharing that you've done today, but also for your ongoing work every day, day after day after day, which is, I'm sure it must be soul numbing. So thank you for the hope that you've expressed, and thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for the time you've spent sharing with us. I hope that you can read the
Yes, I'm seeing all the
comments.
things. Thank you so much.
Love.
It's really very, very warming, and
Great.
thanks a lot.
Can I just end with a word of prayer?
Yes, of course.
Gracious God, you are the hope that resides within us and beyond us. We ask that you surround Sahar with the strength that she needs for her work, that you give her patience, but also the impatience of prophets whose goal is love, but whose words and whose actions challenge the wrongs in our world. We pray, God, that your strength shown through Jesus, who went through arrest, detention, torture, suffering, and death. Tie our hearts to those in Palestine who are experiencing these things today. And may the hope of the resurrection be the hope that inspires us to keep praying and acting and singing and standing in solidarity. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And just a word. So if you have any influence in your congregations to encourage people to pray for prisoners in Palestine on April 17th or that week, like put it in your bulletin, or devise prayers of the people that include praying for those being tortured and held. Write an article for your newsletter. Keep this, like use Holy Week and what you've heard today to help your congregations empathize. We often talk about the humanity of the Israeli hostages being held. We who know need to talk about the humanity of the Palestinians in prison.
Indeed.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Diana, for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Thanks.